Hi, my name is Bente, I'm the Norse Witch, and this week's video is once again a YouTube member and patron pick. Yes, another one. I have to kind of catch up on the time that I lost during the England and the Iceland trip. As always, if you also want to influence what kind of content I post on here, then make sure to subscribe there and you will get the chance to do so. And what we're talking about today is basically how I prepare for the dark months ahead. In Germany, we are currently in the middle of fall. The leaves are dropping off the trees, everything is changing. All of the acorns and chestnuts and beech nuts are falling off the trees. Everything is very autumnal right now. And with that change in the landscape, also changes the spiritual landscape. At least here it is the case, because we have pronounced seasons. Depending on where you live, of course, you might not experience that as much, and then this video may not really be for you. But for anyone who does experience changes in the seasons and who experiences, for example, a very dark period during fall and winter, because to be fair, right here where I live, we don't really have harsh winters, we don't really get a lot of snow or anything like that, but it does change. It is very, very wet and it is very dark. That is basically what winter and fall are around here, wet and dark. Basically no sunlight. So with that being said, this is not the harshest winter out there, but there are pronounced seasons around here. You can really feel the shift, especially when the days are getting shorter and shorter, and that happens pretty quickly. And then when you're in the middle of the dark months, around the winter solstice, then it is very dark and the sun basically goes down around like 3:30 p.m.-ish. And as I already said, with those changes in the landscape around us also changes the spiritual landscape. At least that is what it feels like to me. In spring and summer, the spirits around are very, very, let's say, pleasant, more friendly, more active. And a lot of those spirits kind of feel like they go to sleep during the dark months, during fall and winter. And other spirits might be more active. With that also come some changes in my personal practice. So I like to prepare for that time, especially because I kind of suffer during winter and fall with all of the missing sunlight, because I'm very much of a sun person. I need a lot of sunlight, and during winter and fall when it's so dark constantly, I just suffer. So there are different ways that I prepare for that time, both spiritually but also just to make that time easier for me, and that is what we will talk about today. So first of all, the first preparation already starts for me at Midsummer, because every Midsummer I make my solar serum oil, which is basically sun energy in liquid form. So it's an oil that I make with a lot of solar associations. I charge it in the midsummer midday sunlight, so it's very, very charged with sunlight and sun energy. And that is because, as I already said, I suffer a little bit from seasonal depression. In general, in autumn and winter, I really, really lack energy, I lack motivation, I lack basically everything that sunlight gives you. So I try to counteract that by using an oil that is basically just sunlight all around. So every single year, that is basically the first thing that I do to prepare for the dark months. And I already do that at Midsummer, so that is pretty early, but I know that's not necessarily something everybody does. But if you also maybe suffer from a lack of motivation or energy, maybe that's something that could help you. Maybe you could try that next year. Then of course, when late summer comes around, I kind of go into the last foraging efforts, because I try to forage a lot in my local area. I try to use herbs that grow around me instead of buying them. Or of course I still do sometimes, because for example I like to use angelica, which is native here but doesn't really grow around here, because I'm living in a big city, let's be honest. Where is angelica supposed to grow? There is angelica growing around a lake in a big park, but I can't go there and uproot a plant that has been planted there by the city. So of course I do sometimes buy herbs, but whenever I can, and for whatever herbs I like to use that grow around me. I like to forage them on my own, especially because there is so much fun stuff that you can do when you're foraging them yourself. I already made a video on that. If you want to check that out, it's up here. But of course, when late summer comes around or early fall, that's basically the last time when you can forage most of the plants, because afterwards everything will be wilting away. All of the main harvesting for me happens during spring and summer, because then the plants have the most power. And in late summer, that is very, very steeply declining. So when late summer comes around, that has already been the case. I basically do my last foraging, and afterwards I won't be able to do that anymore. So if I'm planning any kind of spell work during winter and I need some plants for that, of course I will have to have foraged it already in summer. And afterwards I basically have to kind of survive with what I foraged in spring and summer. And then comes basically early to mid-fall. This is where we're at right now. That is where I do 3 separate things. First of all, I already told you that for me it kind of feels like the more springy, summery spirits around here kind of go to sleep during the dark months. So of course I really want to, first of all, say goodbye to them before they go to sleep. And then also, and this will probably be the case for a lot of people because it is harvest season. So of course during the harvest season, at some point I like to give an offering to the land spirits to basically say thank you for the harvest and for all of the abundance that they are giving us. Around here, for example, is a part of Germany that is very, very known for their apples. So I kind of have decided that it would be fun to kind of time that around the apple harvest. So that is something that I like to do, but depending on what is mainly like being grown around you, you could do that whenever you like. I like to time it with the apple harvest, but I know a lot of people do it, for example, with grain harvests or corn harvests or whatever else. And then the last thing I usually do around early to mid-fall is updating my protections. And I don't necessarily mean protections, for example, from the evil eye or protection from curses or hexes by other people. What I mean is more protection from spirits, because while I do live in a big city and sometimes the spiritual ecosystem here seems a little bit more empty than, for example, out in nature. And of course, if you're living in a big city and winter comes around, it will not be as harsh as it is out in nature, but still I personally feel that the spirits around here, as I already said, in fall and winter, but especially in the deep dark of winter, they become less hospitable and a little bit more hostile. So they aren't necessarily extremely dangerous or anything like that. I don't live anywhere where the nature really gets dangerous in winter, again because we don't really have a lot of snow, it doesn't really get that cold, but it is less friendly outside and the spirits get less friendly outside. So I like to protect myself from that. So every year I try to update my protections, and that depends on what I feel like to do. I could make a new talisman that I can carry around with me when I'm out and about, for example going to the graveyard. I could just update the protection spell on a talisman. I could update the wards around my house, for example, but I don't really have a lot of wards against spirits around my house because I like having spirits here. So I usually only have some that are specifically about malevolent, hostile spirits, so I may update those. But depending on what you want to ward against from nature, from outside, you might do it differently. It always depends on what I'm feeling that year. Do I want to make a new protection spell for some reason, or do I want to update the old ones? I also do that around early to mid-fall because I really want to have that being done when it gets really dark. I don't do that when it's already dark, I do it before because I already want to have it done. And then when it finally has really gotten dark, and that's usually for me sometime around the fall equinox, I will try to appease the land spirits. So those land spirits that are less friendly and more hostile, I will try to give an offering to them to basically appease them, to befriend them, so that they don't even have a reason to do anything, so that hopefully I won't even need my updated protections. It won't hurt to basically try to befriend them, and especially if you live in an area that experiences a very, very harsh winter that can actually become very dangerous, it could make a lot of sense to give an offering to the land spirits, to basically try to befriend them so that they maybe even protect you from the harshest weather conditions, or at least that they don't bring around very, very bad weather that could become dangerous for you. As I already said, that is not really the case here. The weather doesn't really get dangerous. I live in a big city. There's nothing really that could happen to me during winter, but still the spirits are a little bit different during winter, so I like to try to befriend them. And then there's two more things that I like to do in preparation of the dark months that don't necessarily have to do anything with harvests or the change of the seasons or the change of the landscape. And that simply has to do with me practicing differently in the dark months that I do in the summer and spring. Because, for example, in summer and spring, I spend a lot of time outdoors. I commune a lot with the spirits outside. I go foraging a lot. In winter and fall, I don't do that because that's just not something that really works well. Again, because one, the spirits are different, and two, because there's not really anything that I could forage for in winter. Maybe some evergreens, but that's about it. So I just try to focus on different things in fall and winter. And for me, one that is kind of focusing on the spirits that are in my house, because in fall and winter I will be in my house or in my flat a lot of the time. So I want to focus on these spirits. So for example, for me, that would be my ancestors, or that would be the house spirit. So I will try to, for example, focus more on communing with my ancestors and try to figure out if they want me to do anything specific over fall and winter, if they would like a bigger offering or anything like that. So I just try to communicate with them and see if they want me to do something specific. And the same would apply to the house spirit. I haven't actually done anything with the house spirit yet, so that is what I will start this fall or this early winter time. So that is basically a new relationship that I'm starting. But if I already had a relationship with the house spirit, then this would also be the time where I would maybe intensify the offerings or do some more communication to see if there's anything they want me to improve in the house maybe during winter or anything like that. And then lastly, another thing that I like to focus on more during fall and winter, because I'm home a lot, is doing more research. In summer and spring, I like to do more practical things because I can go outside. But in fall and winter, I'm basically locked in my house because it's constantly raining and dark and I don't feel like going outside. So I focus more on doing more theoretical research. Maybe reading like 10 papers on a specific topic to figure out what it's all about. I kind of like to split it up like that. So of course, sometime during fall, I will kind of think about, okay, which kinds of topics would I like to go through during fall and winter to basically give me some homework and to motivate myself, because this transition from summer to fall and winter is kind of very hard for me because I do suffer a little bit from seasonal depression, and it sometimes can feel like I'm mourning basically the summertime when I'm seeing everything dying down, and it's making me a little bit sad, and I sometimes feel like I'm mourning the summer. So during that time I really need something like a pick-me-up to motivate me for fall and winter. So I will just think about what I want to do in the next couple of months to basically keep me afloat. And with that being said, that is what I do to prepare myself for the dark months ahead. As always, tell me in the comments what you do, because there's always something that I could maybe pick up from your ideas. There's always something that I haven't been thinking of. I hope you liked this video. If you did, make sure to subscribe and give a thumbs up and ring the bell down below so you're notified whenever I upload a new video. Feel free to check out my other socials, and if you want to support me, then check out my Patreon or my YouTube membership. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!